well, here you have more detailed map of Spain with all the most important. Well, in the Balearic we have Formentera, Ibiza, Mallorca, Menorca, the Canary Islands. All of them have ports, but well, why the yacht or the charter industry is getting more and more importance in Spain is because of our landscape, because we have more than 7,000 kilometers of coastline, because we have good weather almost throughout the whole year, and well, because we have ports more or less in all the regions, in most of the regions of Spain. Okay, these are numbers, okay? Basically, this is for information purposes. It's all the companies and the relevance of these companies into the Spanish economy, okay? And well, the economy activities that are made up of the charter industry are basically the construction of vessels, the distribution of related products, and of course the recreational activities, the renting of boats for recreational activities, which is going to be the focus of my presentation. Okay, basic concepts on charter in Spain. This is something that I would like just to go through, because maybe we will need to go back later when we go through the presentation, okay? We will focus on the charter industry, and therefore we will focus on a certain type of yachts or boats, which are basically those that are used for recreational profit-making purposes, list 6, okay? And then non-professional fishing boats or sport boats used for non-profit activities or for private use. These are what we call boats listed in League 6 and League 7. This is important for the purpose of the registration tax, which we will go through at the end of the presentation. Well, Spanish flag, flagging is an administrative act by which a boat is authorized to carry out the national flag, and of course complying with all the Spanish legislation. The registration of a boat with the Spanish flags triggers the compliance with all the taxes and licenses under the Spanish legislations. And then the boats flagged in Spain or in any other EU country or in a third country are authorized to carry out charter activities within the Spanish water, okay? But they need to get the proper authorization, okay? And then let me just 1 second. And then this is the definition of a new boat, important for VAT purposes. A new boat is a boat that whose first use was made within the last 3 months. Okay, it's 3 months old. And to determine when the first use is deemed to happen is upon the first registry within the EU, or we can look at the date referred in the assurance policy. This is the concept of a new boat. Limits of stay in Spain. For Spanish boats, there is no limit. They can sail for within the Spanish waters without any temporary limit. The same happened with the EU flag boats, but the owner of this boat should take care of his tax residency or his tax links or his links with the Spanish territory, because it could happen that having an EU boat in the Spanish waters for a year or so, it could trigger or it could not trigger the registration tax depending on the permanence and residency of the owner and the links to Spanish territory. And then non-EU flag boats, they can come into Spain under the temporary import regime up to a maximum period of 11 months, provided that they are used for private use and they are owned by individuals or companies which are not established in Spain or in the EU.
EU boats? Sorry, I think everybody can hear.
No, it's for recording purposes.
Thank you. All fine. Anyway, so EU flag boats that are allowed to stay up to 183 days?
No. I mean, EU boats, they can stay within the Spanish water without any limitation, okay?
Okay.
The thing is that if the owner of this boat that is located or let's say docked in Spain, okay, is Spanish, okay, then registration tax would apply. I will later on develop on the registration tax, okay? If the owner of the boat is a non-Spanish resident, but it has links to the Spanish territory, for example, if it becomes a Spanish tax resident because it spends in Spain more than 183 days, or if this guy or the owner or the company has an establishment in Spain, a fixed establishment in Spain, then the EU boat would trigger or would be obligated to pay the registration tax. That's just for the registration tax purposes, okay?
It is regardless if it's private or charter?
It is for charter activities, there is an exemption for that tax, but it's subject, okay? Okay, let's go through the main taxes that are applicable to the industry, okay? Well, we will be talking about the corporate income tax. This is only applicable to the companies, charter companies that are set up in Spain as a company, as a Spanish company. Any profit they make in Spain will be subject to corporate income tax at the general rate, okay? Non-resident income tax is applicable to non-resident companies operating in Spain. And we will see what happens with non-resident companies carrying out charter activities in Spain, because the key issue here is to determine whether or not you have a permanent establishment in Spain when you carry out that activities or not. Then we will go through the VAT, okay? VAT on acquisition and VAT on rentals. Well, I was supposed to talk about something about the custom duties, but at the end of the day, in fact, I didn't develop on these custom duties, okay? Because I would like to focus on the registration tax, which is a specific tax applicable in Spain and also in other EU countries, but in Spain the tax authorities are quite strict on the application of this tax. Okay. Okay. For corporate tax is direct taxation applicable on profits obtained by companies which carry out business activities in Spain. Okay. the Spanish companies, they must be registered with the tax authorities, obtain the licenses, and comply with all the tax and accounting regulations. The profits are taxable in Spain at the general tax rate of 25%. However, we have a reduced tax rate of 15% applicable to new companies developing new businesses during the first 2 years in which they have profits. And well, the taxable base is calculated on the net income, or the profit is income less expenses. And we pay this once a year, although we have some payments on account, depending on the size of the company. Okay. Let's focus on the non-resident side. Okay. Well, non-resident companies operating in Spain, they can carry out businesses in Spain with or without a permanent establishment, okay? On general terms, a company, a non-resident in Spain, can or will be deemed to act through a permanent establishment if they have a fixed place of business in Spain through which the core business activity is carried out, and we will develop on this, because, for example, having a boat in Spain is not considered to be a fixed place of business, because the boat itself is the business. A company may also be deemed to have a permanent establishment in Spain if it acts through a dependent agent. Okay, and this is one of the main problems that we can face, because dependent agents are those people or companies, residents or not in Spain, that are entitled to act on behalf of non-residents, of the non-resident company, having enough authority to bind, okay, the non-resident. Let's say an agent who is entitled to conclude contracts on behalf of the non-resident company carrying out the charter activity, for example. Other auxiliary activities are not deemed to create a permanent establishment, okay? Regarding the e-commerce, which is the present and the future of most of these kind of businesses, according to the OCDE criterion, having a website through which you can conclude contracts is not considered to be a fixed place of business in Spain. Okay, so if you advertise or you have a website through which the client can rent the boat, if the website is not, is not a store, let's say in this way, into a hub that is located in Spain, then there is no permanent establishment in Spain. Okay, this is one of the main issues that we are facing now with the Google tax. I don't know if you have heard about the Google tax in Spain. Well, in Europe in general, the Spanish government, which right now is in the process of being formed, and because right now we don't have a government form, we just had the elections some days ago. Okay, but the plans of the government, of the new government, is to approve for year 2020 the Google tax, regardless what the EU says. Okay, the Google tax will apply to online intermediaries. Okay, the sale or the intermediation through a website in which you sell to Spanish customers products or services in Spain, services in Spain, this will trigger the Google tax, which is the 3% on the price that you are selling, on the commission, okay, gross profit. Well, but this is not still approved, so let's see what happens, but it could happen next year. So focusing on both rental, based on the current legislation and administrative criterion, it could be understood that a non-resident company renting boats in Spain acts through a permanent establishment if the boat is habitually rented and has in Spain its base port, that is it always departure and arrives to the same base port. The boat is least aimed at navigating within the Spanish waters, and the contracts are made from or in Spain, even digital e-contracts. Okay. Go ahead, please.
Is it all three or one of?
This is all three.
Okay.
All
Plus,
three.
plus.
Plus.
If one of them are not,
then I always say the same. Permanent establishment is something factual, okay? Meaning that if you consider all the facts globally considered, okay, if considering all the circumstances and facts surrounding the business that you are carrying out in Spain, the conclusion is that you are acting through a dependent agent, that is, that you are doing your business through someone that is doing the business for you on your behalf, and this someone is based in Spain, okay? Or if you have, considering all the circumstances, a fixed place through which your activity is carried out because you have a base port and because you have someone, an employee or not an employee, an agent who is, let's say, who is concluding the agreements, or who is advertising, or who is going with the clients to the port and giving them or facilitating the business in Spain, then you will be deemed to have a permanent establishment in Spain. Okay. The important, yeah. Sure.
But how you can manage this thing like the airline? The airline, they don't have the established the permanent.
They don't have permanent establishment.
And we are on the same coast.
Well, it depends. It depends. It depends. They don't have a permanent establishment. Well, if an airline, well, I'm not an expertise on airlines, but I would say that this is quite tricky, okay? Because if the airline has a hub in an airport in Spain, I would say they could have a permanent.
They have a handling agent.
They have an agent. Yeah, but if the
handling agent doesn't produce the stable organization in the state.
Okay. Then, yes. Then we are talking about an independent agent. Okay, you have someone that in the course of their own businesses, is commissioning or is acting as an agent, but it doesn't have any power to bind you. I mean, he's doing his job. He's an independent agent economically, legally. He has many other clients, not only you. I mean, under this case, then I would say yes, they have an independent agent, so they get a commission that probably is much more higher, the margin, than the one that would have a dependent agent. Okay?
You have one more question.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I want to know how the Spain legislation handle when a boat which is registered and operated by the company, by the European Union company, but not a Spain company, for example, Italian company, entering into the Spanish water, go to some port, then change the crew. It means make disembarkation, embarkation, and they go back for example, to the Italy, is that considered like taxation activity regarding VAT
No,
or
there is
something
no.
like that?
No, there is no activity there. I mean, you just. It could be understood as an auxiliary part of the activity. You are not doing or generating any income of a Spanish source there, just for.
Okay.
Yeah.
One point very interesting should be when a customer pay in advance for the booking, that is not a charter contract, not at all. Because there is now the new EU directive number 2302 of 2015. This EU directive concerning the tourist services and how you manage this in Spain, because it's not at all the customer has paid in advance. For example, when the boat, you pay now for a delivery of the boat next summer, okay? And maybe the boat next summer doesn't exist anymore.
Well, if it's a payment in
And
advance.
This is not a charter contract.
Yeah.
It's an obligation. It's something like that.
Yeah, sure. Well, for VAT purposes, of course, if it's a payment in advance.
The VAT cannot be paid
Yeah.
in Spain in that case.
Well,
it should be
yeah.
paid in the country where the customer pay.
Well, it depends on where the boat is going to be used and where the boat is going to be displayed.
No, absolutely. Because if the customer pay, for example, in Germany,
Yes.
and the boat doesn't exist in that moment, and
Yeah.
it is not a charter contract, so the VAT should
But
be paid.
are you talking about acquiring a boat or renting a boat or just using a boat?
Doesn't matter. A customer pay for his holiday to spend his holiday in Spain, okay? With the boat in Spain.
Okay.
Normally, with the boat, there are all the time other services. It means, for example, 1 or 2 nights mooring. You can provide the end cleaning,
Everything.
services. Many other services. And this produces a package.
Yeah.
It's not anymore.
You're talking about travel agent. You're talking about the travel agency.
It
Special regime. Okay, you're talking about when you.
It's not. I'm not.
You're
It's
talking about a package.
There is a definition. In this definition,
It's taxable in origin. Yeah, it's taxable
the customer,
in origin.
the person, the subject, the professional subject that collect the money in his country, for example, in Germany, okay, the TVA of the customer, the amount that the customer has paid, the TVA must be absolved for him in Germany.
In the origin, yes. This is under the special travel agent regime.
No, it's not the special.
It is.
I know very well the special travel regime. The special travel regime in Italy we call 74 ter, which is 74 ter. But I'm talking on civil way, not on fiscal way.
On civil way, yeah.
First point we have to understand what the customer buy.
Yeah, of course.
The customer buy a holiday.
The customer buy a package, including.
All the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist in real term. The bareboat doesn't exist.
Yeah. Okay.
The only country where we can discuss maybe concerning the bareboat contract is Greece, because the contract in Greece is a public act. And the customer signed the contract, and the contract go immediately to the port police with all the documents, with everything. In Italy, in Germany, in all this country, is private.
Yeah.
It's a private agreement.
Yeah.
And this private agreement produces a package of holiday. This for sure.
Okay, let's continue because we have more issues to talk about. having a boat mooring is not deemed to have a permanent establishment in Spain, okay? Having or acting through a dependent agent will trigger a P in Spain, okay? For example, okay, and this is an example, a non-resident company that hires the service of a resident company in Spain for the commercial exploitation of its boats or boat moorings. If the non-resident company assumes the market risk, the expenses, the insolvency risk of the client, the Spanish company could be considered to act as a dependent agent of the non-resident company, and therefore a permanent establishment will exist. And this is because the main part of the activity is carried out by the non-resident company through the Spanish agent, okay? If there is a permanent establishment in Spain, then the consequences is that the income or the profits attributable to this activity will be taxable in Spain at the 25%. While if we are acting through an independent agent, or we are acting without a permanent establishment because we just have a boat, we just rent the boat to a company and that company is the one that operates the business, and I just rent the boat, okay? Then I will not be deemed to have a permanent establishment in Spain, but because I'm renting a boat that is based in Spain, I will have an income of a Spanish source. And then I will have to look at the treaty to see if this income is taxable or not. And according to most of the treaties signed between Spain and most of the countries, renting a movable property such a boat, it will qualify as a royalty because they consider that the boat is a movable property. The difference is quite important because if you are an EU resident, you will be paid 19% on net income, that is the amount that you get from the rental of the boat less the expenses, for example, depreciation of the boat. While if you are a resident outside of the EU, you will pay 19% on gross income. Well, this is e-commerce, just a reference to the e-commerce. As I explained before, renting a boat through a website could trigger, in some cases, a permanent establishment, okay, depending on how the website is managed, okay? If the people that manage the website is located in Spain and do other activities that help the business, this will create a permanent establishment. And if not, that is, if the company that is managing the website is outside of Spain and it doesn't have in Spain anything other than having, let's say, someone that provides auxiliary activities to the business, then you will not create a permanent establishment in Spain. Okay. Let's talk about VAT. Just a very brief reference to the temporary import regime. There is a mistake in the presentation, okay? Well, a non-EU boat owned by a non-EU person or company can enter into Spain under the temporary import regime if it is only used for private purposes, okay? Entering into or under the temporary import regime implies that you will not pay custom duties, you will not pay import VAT, you will not pay registration tax, okay? This regime is automatically applied if you comply with these three requisites, okay? But you have to bear in mind that if you fail in compliance one of the three requisites, then the taxation of the VAT, of the registration tax, and the custom duties are triggered. The temporary limit is 18 months, so you have to get out of Spain in 18 months if you don't want to pay the taxes. And or if you, instead of using the boat for private use, you decide to rent the boat, then you fail in the compliance of the requisite, and you will need to pay import VAT, custom duties, and of course the registration tax. Okay. Well, the acquisition of, this is general rules of VATs, okay? New boat, the acquisition of new boat, if the new boat is delivered in Spain, then 21% will apply. It's the general tax rate, general VAT rate in Spain is 21%. So if someone, a company or an individual acquire a new boat and is delivered in Spain, the VAT will be applicable. Well, the rule says that the new means of transport, and we define new boat as a boat that is less than 3 months old, okay? The rule is that the means of transport are always taxable in the recipient country. Therefore, there are specific rules to assure that the new means of transport are always taxable in the country of the delivery, regardless the status of the acquirer, if it's entrepreneur or end user or the seller. If the new boat is or has been built up in Spain, then 21% will be charged by the Spanish company to the seller. If the new boat has been built up within the EU, and the seller is an EU company, if it's delivered into Spain, then we will have an intra-community acquisition, and 21% VAT will be charged. If the acquirer is an end consumer, 21% VAT will be applicable in Spain, and if the acquirer is an end consumer, then the seller will have to register in Spain to charge the VAT. If the new boat is imported from a third country, then the payment of the VAT will be at the import. Okay. Well, the seller. This is important because, well, sometimes you find that, or you find someone that a particular or an individual that buys a new means of transport and then resell them before the 3 months have elapsed. So, for VAT purposes, the seller of a new means of transport is always an entrepreneur, so VAT will be applicable. This is the temporary import that we already talked about. And what about the used boats when they are transferred? Then we have different alternatives. If the seller is an entrepreneur and the acquirer is also an entrepreneur or a company registered in the EU, then the delivery will be exempt and the acquisition will be subject, even if it is a used boat. If the seller is an entrepreneur and the acquirer is an end consumer or a company not registered in the EU, the delivery will be subject to VAT in origin because it's a used means of transport. If the seller applies the reseller special regime, the transaction is always taxable in origin, and if the seller is not an entrepreneur, it's not subject to VAT because it's a used boat. And then the rule for the rentals. Well, the general rule for rental for services in VAT is that the service is always taxable in the recipient, in the country where resides the recipient. Okay. If the recipient is a private person, then the general rule will be the resident of the supplier. But for the rental of means of transport, we have specific rules applicable under the Spanish VAT. So there is a mistake in the presentation because I put 30 days and for boats is 90 days, okay? We have to distinguish between short-term leasings and long-term leasings, okay? The short-term leasings is always taxable in Spain. So if the company that is renting for short-term the boat is not registered and not established for VAT purposes in Spain, it needs to get registered for VAT purposes in Spain in order to charge the VAT, okay? Unless, of course, the recipient is someone that is registered in Spain, because if the recipient of the short-term leasing is a company that is VAT registered in Spain, then the reverse charge will apply, okay? For long-term leasing, more than 90 days, more than 3 months, okay, for boats, for yachts, when the recipient of the services is a private person resident in Spain, it will be taxable in Spain, regardless whether the supplier is or not established in Spain. However, for recreational boats, there is a specific rule that says that VAT will only be applicable if the boat is put at the disposal of the client in Spain and the company is established in Spain. That it has a PE, a permanent establishment for VAT purposes in Spain. The definition of the permanent establishment for VAT purposes, it will be quite similar to the one defined for non-residents income tax, okay? It requires not only, having a mooring or having a boat is not considered to be a permanent establishment for VAT purposes. You also need to have certain structure in Spain. You need to have employees or dependent agents, someone working some kind of infrastructure in Spain. Okay, having a boat docked in a port in Spain is not deemed to be a permanent establishment for VAT purposes. Okay, I would like to point out here that we have we, Spain and all EU countries has the use and enjoyment rule, which is applicable to the means of transport, okay, to the use of the means of transport. The use and enjoyment rule says that if under these rules it happens that the transaction is non-taxable in Spain, but is not taxable in Europe, but the boat is used in Spain, then the service is being enjoyed in Spain, is being used in Spain. So therefore, the closing rule, the use and enjoyment rule, says that under these circumstances, even though the supplier on a long term, okay, even though the supplier is not VAT established in Spain, if the boat is used in Spain, the supplier needs to pay VAT. And what happens here is that this VAT that has to be paid to the Spanish tax authorities, sometimes it could be recoverable and sometimes not. In the event of recreational boats, most of the time it will not be recoverable. Okay.
We have 5 minutes to
5
the
minutes?
conclusion. Yes.
Wow. So, okay, go ahead. I would like to talk about the registration tax.
So it means, for example, if the boat is registered on the Canary Islands, which are outside of EU or something like that.
That's right. That's right.
That's the example.
Yeah.
And when the
Canary Island has a particular, because Canary Island is a Spanish territory, but it's not VAT territory. Okay, it's a third country.
Yeah, so if the company owning a boat is a Canary Island registered company, but operating, for example, from Mallorca,
it pay VAT.
It pay VAT and from the client's price in Spain.
Yes.
From the full price, which is
yes,
because the
of
place
the use
of
and
performance,
enjoyment.
the using of the boat is in Spanish water.
Yes,
Okay.
because of the use and enjoyment rule. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, just very quickly because we are running out of time. Registration tax. Okay. Registration tax is a special duty that is regulated in law 3892, okay, and is applicable to the means of transport, okay? We can distinguish here two taxable events. The first one is the definitive registration of boats that are listed in list 6 and 7, which are recreational boats for rental purposes and recreational boats for private use, okay? This is the first taxable event. There is another taxable event. I mean, this taxable event happens when you buy a boat for recreational purposes and you go and you get the Spanish flag, you register the boat, you get the first definitive registration of that boat, and then you pay this tax, okay? The second taxable event is if you use in Spain a boat, even if this boat is not registered in Spain. If you use in Spain this kind of boats and the owner of this boat has any link to Spain, it is tax resident in Spain, or it owns an establishment in Spain, then this tax will be triggered. The definition of the establishment for the purpose of this tax is not the same as the definition of having a permanent establishment for VAT or corporate tax. It's quite different, it's more broad, and for example, the tax authorities understand that someone that has a stake in a Spanish company is someone that has an establishment in Spain. A shareholder, a majority shareholder of a Spanish company is deemed to have an establishment in Spain for these purposes. So I had a client, this is a very recent case, I had a client that is Belgium. He's Belgian, he comes to Spain for holidays, he has his yacht in Puerto Banús, okay? And since year 2016, okay, he is an entrepreneur, he's a businessman, and he has some investments in Spain. He has a holding company, and he has other Spanish company owning real estate properties in Spain. Now the tax authorities started a tax audit on this client because he uses the boat in Spain, but he didn't pay the tax, okay? So I argue, look, although of course the boat is being used in Spain, this guy is non-resident in Spain and he doesn't have anything in Spain other than a holding company. But look, the holding company is not directly held by him. It's held by a BV company in the Netherlands, which is held by a foundation in the Netherlands, and he's only the director of the foundation. The ultimate beneficiaries of the foundation are their son. And the tax authorities say, I don't mind. There is a very close relationship between the ultimate owner of the Spanish structure and the owner of the boat. So the owner of the boat is deemed to have an establishment in Spain, and he had to pay the tax. The amount of the tax, well, if the boat is not very relevant, is 13%. But imagine if it is a relevant yacht, 13% on the market value of the yacht is quite a big amount. Just for, because it's important for charter industry, we have an exemption for this tax. Okay, okay. We have an exemption for this tax. So if you are a charter company carrying out charter business activities in Spain and you have 1, 2, 3, or 4 boats in Spain used for rental activities, then you can claim the exemption for this tax. Important, you should comply with 2 requisites. The rental activity has to be exclusive and has to be effective, meaning that if you are not effectively renting the boat the majority of the days during the year. And if you are not exclusively using the boat for rental purposes, because, for example, you decide to go sailing one day in the boat because you are the owner and you like to sail, and you say, I would use this boat for private use today. This is not exclusive. If they catch you, you pay. The minimum period for these activities is 4 years. So you claim the exemption, tax authorities come, they check it beforehand, they check that you have the license for charter activities, and they give you a vote of confidence that you will comply with the requisites, and they will be, how do you say that in English? They will be looking at you and checking if you comply with this requisite. Because if you fail during the 4-year period, failing in the compliance of this requisite, then you will be obligated to pay the registration tax.